The Western Conference looks about impossible to predict this year in the NBA, as there is talent littered throughout all of these teams, and you can make the argument that just about any of them can make a run. So I'm going to try to predict the final standings for teams 1 through 15, although I think the records are going to be so scrunched even more than the last couple seasons, and there's so many factors that can go on through a year that there's going to be giant variability in what I predict, but let's see if we can get it right. Finishing with the best record in the West will be the Denver Nuggets. Not a particularly bold prediction. They've had many good regular seasons in a row, won the championship last season. They have the most steady and durable superstar in the NBA with Nikola Jokic. He doesn't really have off games. They still have so much talent around them. They may have lost some depth with Bruce Brown and Jeff Green leaving the team, but I think the rookies that they've drafted have looked good enough that they'll be able to produce enough where they don't fall behind. Second best record in the West is a bit of a bold claim. I've got the Thunder making a huge jump to this second spot. I think that they're going to be a young, hungry team that is going to just dominate. They have so many stars on their team that score through driving. Shea was All-NBA first team last year. He scores through driving. Same with Giddey. Same with Jalen Williams. Even Chet can do that, and I think they have a ton of depth. They play the right way, and they're ready to really just blitz teams this season. Insane amounts of talent and so many assets that if the year is going well, that they can use some of those to add someone to even catapult their team even further. I think the Thunder take a massive jump this year. Finishing with the third best record, I think will be the Lakers. They are another team with tremendous depth, had very good offseason moves, adding Gabe Vincent, Christian Wood, Taurean Prince, and they still have LeBron and AD. I assume that they will still miss a fair amount of games between the two of them with their age and injury histories, but they have enough talent where they can be missing one of those guys and still go out and win games. I think they will continue to exceed like they did after the trade deadline last year, and the Lakers have a fierce roster that I think can really make moves this year. In the fourth spot, I'm predicting the Golden State Warriors. I think they come back with a vengeance. They always have an extremely good home record, which really helps out in these regular season standings. Another huge contributor for Denver being at number 1 as well. I think they won't have the same road woes that they did last season, not coming off of a championship, now having Chris Paul, and not relying on those young guys as much. I also think that Kuminga might improve this year pretty steadily, especially playing with someone like Chris Paul, who ideally could tone down some of the Warriors' turnover issues as well. At the 5 spot, I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns. They have all of the star power. They've retooled all of their role players, and they have a new head coach. So yes, they've got a lot of really compelling pieces, but everything is new. They don't have the continuity, the style of play already ingrained with their team, and they're going to have to figure out a lot of things as they go. Also, all their stars have history of injuries, especially in recent seasons, so they're probably going to miss a fair amount of games, although I think that they have enough redundancy and their stars do similar things, so they can miss 1 or 2 and still be pretty productive. At number 6, I'm going with the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a bit of an optimistic view. This is mostly betting on Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels taking another step and being incredible. Each year of their careers, they have just gotten better and better, and it's been noticeable every year. I think that's going to happen yet again. Anthony Edwards is going to continue to elevate, Jaden McDaniels as well, and then I think with a little bit more health, this team will succeed much more than they did last season, and I think they'll have a bit more consistency than the previous year, at least hopefully. 7th seed, I'm thinking this will be the Memphis Grizzlies. I was originally thinking they'd maybe be higher because they are also a very good home court team, but now Steven Adams is going to miss the entire season. Brandon Clark tore his Achilles late last year, and we're unsure when he will return, so missing 2 key front court players while also having Jaren Jackson Jr., one of the people that gets in foul trouble more than anyone in the NBA, means that they're going to have some front court issues. Also, Ja Morant suspended for the first 25 games, and they don't have Tyus Jones to lean back on at the backup point, who really thrived in those non-Ja minutes. So I think the Grizzlies got weapons. They still got incredible defensive players. They still got Desmond Bane, home court. But I think they'll take a little bit of a step back, missing those front court players, missing Ja for 25 games. Also, Ja plays way better with Steven Adams setting him screens. For the 8th seed, I'm predicting the Los Angeles Clippers. They've got all of the elements to be a tremendous team. Stars, depth, coaching, money, but they just have not put it together. They've had all of those elements for 3 or 4 years now, and they are always falling short. They don't take the regular season as seriously as they should, and it seems like they've maybe just angered the basketball gods. I think that they kind of stay in that low, making it in through the play-in range, just because that's kind of what the Clippers have done, and I think all of these spots are going to be really close record-wise anyway. You also can't expect their health to be intact at this point with the history of the previous seasons. At the 9th spot, I'm going with the Sacramento Kings. They had the number 1 offense in the NBA last year. I would assume that teams are going to adjust to that a little bit more, and they're not going to sneak up on teams as much. I didn't think they did enough to add to their team and get better in the offseason compared to a lot of ones. And although I still think they're a very good team, I think that they take a step back record and placement-wise overall. Not to detract from their players out there, I think they got studs. Love their style of play as well. Limping into the last play-in spot, I'm going with the New Orleans Pelicans. Limping because that's what their team has done a lot of through these last couple seasons yet again. Brandon Ingram's been up and down with his injuries, and Zion, of course, the big one, has had huge question marks about his health all the way through his career. They're another team with so much talent and depth that you keep thinking they're going to break through. They just haven't yet. I also have concerns about if they really have a pure point guard on their roster. And I think there's some defensive concerns with the front court of Zion and Valanciunas as well. But Pelicans have a lot of compelling pieces. They could skyrocket in these rankings too. Just missing the playoffs in the 11th seed, I think, will be the Mavericks. They're another team with a bunch of talent. They've got Luka and Kyrie, so the star power is there. I think they did some nice tooling to their roster in the offseason, but I still think that they're weak on defense. Their depth is a little lacking. And looking at all of these talented teams, I kind of think that they're the one that's just going to get kicked to the side yet again. These first 11, though, you feel like all of these should be playoff or play-in teams. They have that level of talent, and they should be able to make it in, but the West is just so deep that someone's got to be on the outside. With the 12 seed, I'm going with the Houston Rockets, a team that I think is going to be significantly improved from last season. They have Ime Udoka as their head coach now. They scrapped a lot of young players and brought in many veterans, and I think all of those factors are going to bring a lot more discipline to their young core, who does have a lot of talent and could be solid. Also, really like the Thompson twins. I thought their draft was pretty solid, and I think they'll be significantly better than the previous season. I think that's also true about the number 13 team, which will be the San Antonio Spurs. And the more I watch Wemby, this really could leap forward in the rankings because he just changes the game. He is so good. However, he is a 7'4" big man. I really hope he doesn't get hurt. But I think if one person gets hurt on any given team, it's probably the Spurs that gets the worst from that, because they don't have a ton of talent that works super well without Wemby on the court. And also there's going to be probably some growing pains trying to figure out how to win in the NBA. And so I think they're going to be a significant amount better. I like how their team is kind of built around him, but there's a much smaller margin of error for them to be successful than just about any of the other teams that I'll talk about. With the 14 spot, I'm going to give it to the Utah Jazz. I actually like their offseason additions. They got John Collins for just about nothing. They also picked up Keontae George in the draft. Walker Kessler's a great piece for them. Laurie is legit. And I like the way that they play as well. There's really good elements to this Utah Jazz team. I just think that they have a bit more incentive to lose than just about anyone else in the West, because they do have a lot of draft asset build-up, and they do have comparatively less talent than most of these other teams, although I don't think that they have a bad squad. It's just everyone else is so good, and they have more reason to lose than most people, so that's why I got them at the 14 spot. Also, less star power and less established players too. Most of those sentiments can be carried on to the 15 seed, the worst record in the Western Conference that I'm predicting, the Portland Trail Blazers, who actually still have a lot of talent on their team. They've got really good guards. I mean, they've got Scoot coming in, they have Anthony Simons, they still have Jeremy Grant, you still have Brogdon, Ayton, Robert Williams. I mean, they've got players on their team, but they've acquired some draft capital too. They have a little bit more incentive to lose. They've got a lot of youth, and they have been known in these last couple of seasons to kind of punt on the season, so I'd say that they might do that yet again. I have a bit less faith faith in them than I do the Jazz, so that's how they end up with the worst record in the West. All of these are extremely subject to change. I think that it's the closest the top from the bottom has been in the conference since I can remember watching the NBA. And I think every increment and spot on that list, it kind of feels that way. I think it's just going to be an enormous cluster in the Western Conference. Also, let me know if you like this. I'll do it for the Eastern Conference as well. All right, that's it. Peace out.